All right, you have a page that says profit maximization price searchers. And that information, or that page has two examples. I'm going to go through the first one and explain how you think through it. The second one you would work out exactly the same way, and the sheet that I gave you has the solution for that second one on it, so you can check yourself. All right, as with the price searcher, we're trying to figure out what should the firm do. In particular, how much should the firm produce? And as with the price taker, the firm wants to produce every unit where marginal revenue is greater than or equal to marginal cost. So it's going to stop at the level of output where MR equals MC. Okay? Doesn't want to produce any unit that adds more to its cost than it's to its revenue. I keep repeating that, but it takes most people a while to start thinking about this in intuitive terms. And if you think about it intuitively, it's not hard. If you're just applying a rule that doesn't really make sense to you, it's very hard and it's very easy to make mistakes. This is very similar to the price taker example. How do you know that we're dealing with a price searcher here? Think about that for a second. Look at what we're given. How do you know that this is a firm in a price searcher market? Okay? And the answer comes from these first two columns. If this were a price taker market, what would the firm's options be as far as what price to charge? If it's a price taker, then we'd have to know what is the market price, and they would have to charge that market price, and at that price, they can sell as much as they want. What we see here is the demand curve faced by this firm, and what should jump out at you is that if this firm charges this price, there's a limit to how much it can sell. In fact, it can only sell one unit, but if it cuts its price, it can sell more. Cuts it to 36, it can sell more. So the two first columns here, what kind of demand curve are they tracing out? Okay. As the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. So that means that they are tracing out a negatively sloped demand curve. And that means that this is a price searcher market of some type. Okay? Could be a monopolistic competition, could be oligopoly, which we get to at the very end, could be monopoly. Okay? But price searchers all work pretty much the same. Okay? Trying to find what quantity will give the firm maximum profit. You got to find where MR is equal to MC. As before we have MC, we need to know marginal revenue. To review, what's the definition of marginal revenue? Change in total revenue over the change in quantity. It's the extra revenue the firm receives when it sells an extra unit. Okay? So how do we find that? From that definition, what do we need? We need total revenue. Now we have a column for it, but we're not told what it is, so we're going to have to calculate total revenue. And we recall what is the definition of total revenue for the kind of firms we're looking at, and that is firms that are they're going to set one price, sell to everybody they sell at that price. For that kind of firm, total revenue will be the number of units they sell times the price they charge per unit. So, if you can multiply, you can find total revenue. If they charge a price of $40, they're going to sell one, and their total revenue is going to be $40. If they decide they want to sell more, then they're going to have to cut their price. If they want to sell two, they have to cut the price to 38. 38 times 2 is 76. Want to sell three, they've got to cut their price to 36. And the total revenue would be 108. And continuing on down, This would be 136, 160, 180, 196, 208, 216. Okay? This is showing you total revenue for various levels of output and different prices. Now, if you're thinking, well, why doesn't the firm continue to sell the first unit at 40, but then only cut its price on the extra units? That's called price discrimination. And if the firm has the ability to do that, it can be very profitable to do that. But since we have limited time, we're assuming the firm cannot price discriminate. They have to look at all these prices and search for the price that's going to give them maximum profit. So they can choose any price, but once they set the price, they're going to be selling to every customer at that same price. Okay? So now we know total revenue for each quantity. That's what we need to calculate marginal revenue. What is marginal revenue? The extra revenue the firm receives when it sells an extra unit. I didn't put 0 up here, okay? But if the firm sold 0 output, it would get obviously 0 total revenue. You always want to look and notice, does the data start with a quantity of 0 or a quantity of 1? Because some it could be either one. Okay? Quantity of 0, total revenue would be 0. There really is no marginal revenue if you're not producing anything. The marginal revenue for the first unit is the change in revenue that occurs when you sell that first unit. When you sell the first unit, total revenue goes from 0 to 40, so marginal revenue is 40. If you decide to sell 2 units, okay, well, you have to cut the price from 40 to 38, and total revenue goes from 40 to 76. So the marginal revenue from that second unit is the change here, which is 36. If he wants to sell 3, he's got to cut his price to 36. His revenue goes to 108. Total revenue goes from 76 to 108, and that is a change in revenue of $32. Okay? Wants to sell 4, got to cut his price on all of it. We're assuming, again, he's selling to everybody at the same price. So he has to cut his price to 34. He can sell 4. His revenue goes up to 136, and the change there is 28. If we continue on down, this will be 24, 20, 16, 12, and 8, if I did that right. Okay. That's the hard part. Once we have the marginal revenue curve, then this is going to work just like it did with the price taker, because the firm looks at the first unit and says, if I produce that unit, what's it going to add to revenue? What's it going to add to cost? You want to produce a unit that adds $40 to revenue if it's going to only add $18 to cost? Certainly. You want to produce a second unit, it's going to add 36 to revenue, 20 to cost. Yes. Third unit, that's 32 to revenue, 23 to cost. Yes. Fourth, 28 and 27. Those are pretty close, but 28 is greater than 27. So producing that unit makes the firm $1 better off. So the firm will choose to produce that unit. What about the fifth unit? He produces the fifth unit. Revenue goes up by 24. Cost goes up by 30. Does that sound like a good idea? Do you want to spend $30 to bring in 24? Certainly not. So he's not going to do that. Where's he going to stop? He's going to stop at producing 4 units. Okay? Now, what price is he going to charge? Well, he's going to charge the price right next to 4. Okay? But thinking through it a little more carefully, he's going to charge the price that will allow, the highest price that will allow him to sell 4 units. and the highest price he can charge and sell 4 units is 34. So he's going to choose to produce 4. He's going to charge a price of 34. Next, we want to know what is his profit going to be. Well, the profit equation is always the same, no matter what kind of firm you're looking at. Profit is, actually, let's put it up here. Profit is number of units times price minus ATC. And if you get your equation right, and you found the right quantity and the right price, you just plug it in. He's going to sell 4 units. He's going to charge $34. His average total cost, we want to know his ATC if he's producing 4 units. And so we read over to here, and we see that that is going to be $24.50. So price is greater than ATC. That means he's making a profit. And that's what, profit of $9.50. And if we multiply that by 4, we get a profit of $38. What does it mean to make an economic profit of $38? It means the revenues the firm is receiving are high enough to cover all of his explicit costs. They're high enough to cover all of his implicit costs as well, and there's still $38 left over. So he's doing $38 better producing in this market than he could do if he took his resources and went into some other market. Okay. On the sheet, you will notice it has a column over on the right that says TC. That's not really a part of the problem, so just ignore that column. That should not have been here. Well, that's all you really have to do to work out this problem. I think I'll go ahead and show it to you graphically, just for practice. To represent this negatively sloped demand curve, notice for every unit, the price, well, starting with the second unit, the price is greater than marginal revenue. And as the firm produces more and more, the price is becomes more and more, or the gap between price and marginal revenue gets bigger and bigger. What that means is the marginal revenue curve is going to be steeper. Okay? For any level of output, if you read up to the price is going to be greater than the marginal revenue for that quantity. Okay? So this is just a graphical representation of the demand curve we have here. Okay? To find the profit maximizing quantity, what did we do? We looked for where MR and MC were equal. And we see that here's marginal revenue, here's marginal cost. They intersect at that point. We've always called that Q star. That's the quantity that gives the firm maximum profit if it's going to produce anything at all. What you want to be really careful about is determining the price when you're doing the graph. Notice for our solution here, the price was 34, marginal revenue was only 28. A lot of times people will read over to here and they think that's the price. No, that's the marginal revenue. That's where MR equals MC. To determine the price the firm is going to charge, you look at the quantity it's going to produce and you ask what's the highest price the firm can charge and still sell that quantity. And based on our numbers, the quantity would be 4 and the price would be 34. Okay. So this is simply doing it graphically, whereas this was doing determining it with numbers. If you had, if we put up the average total cost curve, then we could see the profits as well. And let's do this. Why not? ATC could be anywhere. But for this particular problem, we know that for 4 units, the price is greater than the ATC. So I've drawn it in that way. For 4 units, ATC is here. What does that gap there represent? It's 34 minus 24.50. So that's the per unit profit. This dimension would be the number of units. If you multiply the number of units times the profit per unit, you get the area of that rectangle. And that represents the profit. So that's a profit rectangle. And since the price is greater than ATC, it truly is profit. If the ATC curve is way up here, you'd still have a rectangle, but it would actually be representing the loss the firm was experiencing because ATC would be greater than the price. Okay, be sure to do the other example and make sure you know how to go through it.